Kudo Lebi. We're giving greetings to all Africans looking at this video. We are Hosu Agelogbagan Agbovi the first, the Ganlodo Hosu, also Kilombo Hosu, Kilombo Maroon King here in North America. Ganlodo being the monarchy that we serve as monarch, as a Hosu. A Hosu is king in the Aja phone language. We're only emphasizing that because most people are familiar with Yoruba culture, but they're not too familiar with terminology and philosophy coming from the Aja people, which the phone group is one of the larger off-branches, offshoots of the Aja, along with the Eve. So we wanted to address real briefly the issue of African captivity and where were the deities when this happened. This is very crucial to understand. We've lost many good people to this concept. The fact that they felt, well, the fact that the deities were not there during captivity. We saw a blog recently where this brother posted. It was on an African-owned blog. The brother posted questions like, well, I hear all the time that the deities, things are done with the deities for protection and to protect you from evil this, evil that, So why did they not protect us from the horrors of captivity? In particular, allowing the Yovo, white men and women, to conquer us. Some people get upset at this question, these type of questions, but they're legitimate questions. We made a video, if the African deities are so powerful, then why is Africa and African people in the predicament they're in? So this is like part 2 of that almost. And we'll get right to it. Now, the answers to this, a lot of people are not going to like, but it's reality. One is what we call, in the phone language, we have a few notes here, Nuninyo Home Tome, or Nuninyo Home Hotome, which is the internal rot of the nation. Hotome is monarchy, nation, right? For instance, we're Ganlodo Hotome, Ganlodo Kilombo Hotome. What a lot of people have not quite understood is that there was hundreds of years of Nuninyo Home, that means internal rot, going on amongst African people all around Africa, Mawufe as we call it in the Aja language. We saw the case with Tamare, where which is like the most documented case, and our beloved ancestor Ibara Torun, national ancestor, Dr. Chancellor Williams, gave us the breakdown, partial breakdown of what happened and how it happened in Tamare. Interracial relations getting too big for themselves, for their own britches, as they say. That's one of the main things. Of course, interracial stuff would follow that. Selling out the deities, selling the deities. This is what happened also in West Africa. You had African leaders, chiefs, kings, queens, who allowed the European to build forts there, to take over certain areas. Had even in Dahomey, they even had graveyards for those Europeans that ran those factories that promoted captivity of our people. They had graveyards dedicated to them, where they could be buried separate and away from Africans, by the way. This was allowed in Dahomey. So this builds us up to the point we're making. There are taboos amongst African people that just are the epitome of stepping over the line, right? And in our culture, we have to understand, our culture is not like other cultures. Our people are not like other people. For instance, culture is the only mandate that will get us towards sovereignty. Other people can play around with culture a little bit, you know, like the Chinese, and still gain degrees of sovereignty, but they still have their culture at their base. We cannot afford to play it all in relation to culture, you know, and that's what one of the things that distinguishes us from other people, African people from other people. It's kind of like the thing with drugs and African people. Why? Because of our rich melanin, that's one of the things we brag on. At the same time, is one reason we should not overdo narcotics and alcohol, because of that melanin content. So, there were taboos amongst those that were in power consistently for hundreds of years before the coming of the Yovo, the white folks, the Arab folks. These taboos were being broken. This Nunino Home internal rot was accelerated by the time that the Yovo came, even more than when the Arab had come hundreds of years earlier. This is something that one should really note. People should really note this. And the whole concept of the internal rot is very key, because the internal decay, the Nunino Home, because none of this that the Yovo and the Yovo Arabs and the Yovo European did would have been attainable without that internal rot. We were, you know, in our regular mode, are too powerful for people for that to happen, right? So keep that in mind. And so we want to make this as simple as possible. The internal rot eventually brought what we call Hunde Do Yi, which is the deity has left. So this goes into the heart of what what the question is: where were the deities? Why did they allow this? You know, the deities have strict rules, Besu, laws of the universe. Su, the word su in there means taboo, right? Or also law in the Agile language. So these consistent violations of Besu amongst, in particular, the chiefs, those in leadership positions, the Henugans, you know, the chiefs of the clan heads and whatnot. These were considered by the deities unforgivable. Now, when you're in that culture, you understand that that is the norm. That is, you know, expected. People are tending the land, by the way, so that's the noise you hear in the background. So these laws they're different from in European culture, where you could violate them and then you could take it back and all that, you know. In African culture, there's repercussions. Unfortunately, when it comes to African culture, we have the concept of when these leaders violate these particular laws, then the populace suffers. Now, oftentimes, the populace would suffer, those that are part of the Hotome, because they did not do anything to reproach or remove the unfit leader, so to speak. We see that in the case of places like Nigeria. You know, even today, even though that's an African country trying to run a European government, a lot of what happens with them is because they are allowing corrupt leaders and never no goods to run their country, like the Good Luck Jonathans and this Muslim guy they have there now, Bahari or whatever his name is. So we see modern examples of this across the board around the world with African people. So, because, you know, in our culture, you know, you look at the Yoruba and in the case of the ancient Aja monarchies, you know, there were measures put in place to remove corrupt leaders, those that were not doing the right thing. And oftentimes it was removable by death. That means they really messed up. Sometimes they were exiled, meaning they messed up to the point where they should not be rulers, but maybe they shouldn't be, you know, removed physically from life. So we'll just remove them physically from the area and they would get exiled. The deities' presence in many West African nations, like the Aja, the Ewe, the Fon, the Yoruba, Ijebu Yoruba, Oyo, had already started to greatly wane, greatly diminish by the time, especially when the European Yovo came to West Africa. Please note that. Remember the concept of the deity leaving. You know, we say in the foreign language, Hunde do yi, right? The deity has left. The deity has left. Sometimes that could be used to mean the deity is leaving. But normally it's the deity has left. The deity is not in that shrine. You know, the deity has left not only the shrine, and it may locate in another part of the monarchy. But in this case, these deities were leaving the monarchy. And often they were migrating, and they were migrating with the victims of captivity. Now, whatever the case may be, there needs to be a collective use amongst human beings of the deities to attack something on the level of the so-called slave trade. And one of the main reasons is because so many of our own were involved in this situation. So that meant removal of two enemies. The one that looked like you and the obvious one on the outside. Right? So many of these deities had already left. They had left. They went back in their permanent abode. What could be their permanent abode, which is Sehwe in Aja, Orun in Yoruba. Right? And many of them, the most, known of them, a lot of times, they were like, well, we'll wait. And hopefully many of these people sold into captivity will resurrect us. Will not necessarily resurrect us, but learn the rites, learn the rituals, learn the communication with us, what we call Humbe and Ajagbe, Aja language, and bring us back. And maybe give us back to those continental Africans that deserve to be given back to. And this is what's happening now. With the cultural resurrection and reconstruction with the Quilombo paradigm and the Quilombo movement, we are now bringing these deities back to real life. Even though they never went anywhere, not like in the case of Tamaray, or so-called Kemet. We're bringing them back in their proper sense, because oftentimes when people go to Africa and they are getting initiated, they're not getting initiated to a real deity. One reason is because that deity has abandoned that area because those people either sold out the deity or allowed the deity, allowed selling out to happen in whatever form. And they migrated to Brazil. They migrated to Mobile, Alabama. They migrated to New Orleans, Louisiana, Savannah, Georgia. This is what happened. So a lot of us we don't want to face that, and that's what the case is with our culture. So why didn't the deities protect us? Is because many times those deities were not even there. Period. They were not even present. They were already on their way out. Period. So there are some things about this that seems unfair, like why the victims had to suffer. Once again, when you do not do the right thing, because it's not like European society, medieval European society, where only certain people knew certain laws and could read and whatnot. Everybody in African culture was raised through the rites of passages, through societies like Egungun, Ogboni, Oro, Zangbeto, Gelede society. They were the keepers of the truth, and they passed this on along family lines. It was up to the chiefs, and if the chiefs didn't do their thing, up to the populace to correct these measures if it meant the death of a king, the death of a chief or one or more chiefs, and often this began to wane. This stopped happening, and so many innocents, so to speak, many innocents, were caught up in this thing that they call the slave trade today, the captivity trade of African people. The deities often were not there. The deities were not there because they had been violated. They had been sold out. Just like in Oshogbo now, Oshun is not there. No matter how big that festival is, it's just a gathering of people. That's what that is. Oshun is not there. And, maybe Oshun is there with certain individuals, but so far as at the central shrine, and many of the other shrines that offshoot from that shrine, Oshun is not there. That's just a fact, So we hope this can kind of clear up some of that thing about, well, where were the deities? Where were the ancestors? It takes a collective to battle a collective. And our people were not all on the same page. And many of them were using a lot of juju against each other and would not use it against the Yovo. So that's another problem. Are the deities real? Yes. Are the deities for us? Yes. But the deities work through humans. Humans have to have the right heart and right character to operate on behalf of the deities. Anything else, they're doing negative juju, left-handed magic, if you will. So we hope that this clears up things. Our website, restorationhealing.com. That's the website is called Kilombo Restoration and Healing. That's restorationhealing.com. And our monarchy is the monarchy of Ganlodo, of course. And that is ganlodokingdom.com. That's GANLODO kingdom.com. We can be reached also at ekaabokilombo at gmail.com. That is EKAABO KILOMBO at gmail.com. Odigba.